I disappeared after my cheating wife wanted half. Here's what happened. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I told myself the day couldn't get any worse, and I was wrong. Work had already chewed me up all week. Then, just to rub salt in it, my boss, the company president, Mr. Collins, dragged me into his office and chewed me out for a screw-up someone else made. When I finally rolled home, my sister-in-law's car was blocking my driveway, which meant I couldn't even park in front of my own place. The neighbor kid and his buddies had lined the street with their clunkers, so I had to leave my car 3 houses down. Stepping inside, I honestly wondered why I even bothered coming home at all. My wife's sister, Megan, and I had never gotten along, not from the first handshake. I had no idea what I'd done, but she seemed to dislike me on principle. And I knew better than to hope for a romantic night with my wife, Ashley. We hadn't been intimate in almost a month, even though I kept trying to light that fire. No spark, no smoke. In the driveway, I spotted an empty trash can at the curb. I hauled it through the side gate and left it by the back door. In the kitchen, I heard music and the sound of Ashley and Megan talking in the living room. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, took a pull, and headed that way, until a line I heard at the doorway iced me where I stood. God, he took me 3 times today. It wasn't Megan's voice. It was my wife's. Ever since Tyler came back last month, I can't get enough of him, Ashley added. Tyler, her old boyfriend, the one who ditched her and moved away. Megan asked, curious as a cat. So what are you going to do now? Tyler wants me to move in with him, Ashley said. I'll get a lawyer and file for divorce. It's a community property state, so I'll take half of everything. That was plenty for me. I drifted to the back door, retraced my steps, and made for my car like I was walking underwater. When I slid into the driver's seat, the dry spell finally made sense. My wife had been busy with someone else, and now she wanted half of what I owned. Worst part? The law was probably going to hand it to her on a silver platter. Ashley and I had only been married 3 years. She quit her job right after we said, I do. And once she was home, she barely lifted a finger. I hired a maid to come 3 times a week to clean and do laundry, and on those days Ashley cooked dinner. The other nights, either I cooked or she ordered takeout. Say what you want about me, but love had blinders on me. She kept me content with good sex, at least until about a month back. I lost my mom when I was 13, and it ripped a hole right through my dad and me. Dad did his best to raise me, and we got tight. 10 years later, a drunk driver took him too, just a year before I met Ashley. I inherited close to $2.5 million from Dad. I was careful with it and kept it invested with a solid broker. Even with Ashley trying to burn through every paycheck I brought home, I tucked away several $100,000 more in regular savings. I never touched the inheritance. It kept growing, even in a shaky economy. I could live fine without dipping into it, and I didn't. Because I loved her, we skipped a prenup. Dumb move. Folks do it all the time, thinking love lasts forever. That little oversight meant she could walk away with damn near $1.5 million for doing nothing more than spreading her legs for another man. And the state looked ready to bless the whole thing. She'd said she needed to get a lawyer, which told me she wasn't ready to serve me yet. That meant I had a window. I sat in the car, hatched a plan, and watched my rear view until Megan backed out and drove off. I started the engine, swung around the block, parked, and walked up like I'd just gotten home from work. The house looked empty at first, so I grabbed another beer in the kitchen, popped it, and took a long drink while I lined up what came next. There you are, honey, Ashley said as she walked in. Didn't hear you come in. Hey, babe, just got here. Long day? I answered with a warm smile I didn't feel. If she could fake it, I could too. I didn't have time to order dinner, she pouted, lower lip on display. I wanted to snap. Yeah, because you were busy with your boyfriend and bragging to your sister, but I didn't. I said, that's fine, sweetheart. I'll heat up leftovers. She smiled sweetly, kissed my cheek, and said she was going to soak in a hot bath. I nodded like the good husband. In my head I thought, yeah, wash the day off. Once she was upstairs, I ate cold fried rice out of the container and chased it with 2 beers. Then I slipped into the den and clicked through channels until I landed on some old movie. Half an hour later, Ashley floated back down and settled on the couch. When the movie ended, she said she was tired and headed to bed. Tired, sure. I told her I'd watch the news and join her later. Truth is, the movie never really registered. My mind was busy drawing blueprints. I couldn't do much until Monday, so I muscled through the weekend. Yard work on Saturday, golf with the guys Sunday. Come Monday, I called the broker managing my inheritance and told her to liquidate the positions. I was in upper management at work, so I cashed out my 401k too, penalty be damned. By Thursday, I was ready. That evening, I walked in and fed my loving wife a story about an urgent company trip. I'd be flying out for a week. I packed 2 suitcases, everything I actually cared to carry. When we moved in, I'd boxed up anything important to me because it never matched her taste. The furniture was all her picks. I couldn't have cared less. Thankfully, we were renting this place. No equity holding me hostage. I'd just sold my condo, and we'd been looking for a house to buy, but only one person's standards mattered, and none of the homes we toured were good enough for Ashley. Friday morning, I kissed her cheek for the last time, loaded my cases into my Lexus, and drove away without looking back. First stop, my buddy Mike's place. Mike's old school, and I trust him. He nearly fell over when I proposed swapping titles. My Lexus for his older, rebuilt 4x4. I laid out the situation. An hour later, I was headed west in a truck nobody would tie to me. Mike promised to keep my car tucked in his garage. For the next 4 days, I paid cash for everything. I canceled all our credit cards to avoid leaving tracks. Most of my money was now in an offshore account my broker set up. We had a clean system for moving funds to me when I needed them. I kept enough cash hidden in the SUV to last a good while. Those first motel nights were the hardest. I'd been too focused to feel anything, but when the quiet hit, I had to sit with it. I did love Ashley. I wouldn't have married her otherwise. I ran every what-if scenario in my head and kept landing in the same spot. Even if I'd known Tyler was back, I couldn't have kept them apart. In the end, I came to 2 hard truths. She probably never loved me, and I was a fool to marry her. On day 5, I slid into a mom-and-pop diner in a small town in Montana and wondered what my loving wife was doing now that the credit cards were dead and our bank account was a dry creek. At the next table, a gray-haired guy in his late 50s spoke quietly to his red-haired wife about needing an extra hand on their ranch. Money was tight until the calves hit the market, and even then they couldn't pay much. I finished my plate, stood, and apologized for eavesdropping. Then I said maybe I could help. The man gave me a long, measuring look. Don't see how, son. If you heard me talking, you know I can't afford to pay. What if all I need is a place to sleep, and I'll work for it? I said. He squinted and turned to his wife. Mary, give me a minute with this young fella outside. We stepped into the parking lot where it was private enough for straight talk. He was about my height, 6 foot even, with broad shoulders, and the kind of face the wind and sun have a claim on. Who are you? He asked. You with the Anderson Ranch? I lifted both hands. Not with anybody. For days ago I was in Texas. Rolled in this morning. Figured maybe we could help each other. If that's true, why do this? He pressed. I can't pay you. What's in it for you? And if you're on the run, I don't need that kind of trouble. I'm probably on the run the way you mean it, I said, but not from the law. I told him about my cheating wife, the divorce threat, and needing a place to lay low while I protected what was mine. I haven't hurt anyone, and I haven't stolen a dime. If you've got a corner I can sleep in, I'll pay you back in work. If I'm no good to you, say the word and I'll be gone. He studied my face and nodded once. If that's straight, I'd be a fool not to try you. I'll warn you now. The Andersons have been pushing me to sell out. They ain't done anything dirty yet, but I wouldn't put it past them. You might be stepping into more than you planned. I'll take my chances, I said. You ever cowboyed? Spent some summers on my uncle's place in Texas, I admitted. I can ride, mend fence, and take direction. I'm not a pro. He stuck out his hand. Name's Tom Bennett. You can call me Tom. Jack, I said, shaking his hand. Nice to meet you. We went back inside, and he introduced me to his wife. Mary, this is Jack. He's going to work for us if he survives the first day. Mary had that clear, lilting voice with just a touch of Irish in it. Trim, bright-eyed, and kind. Nice to meet you, Jack, she said. Pleasure's mine, ma'am, I smiled. And thank you. Tom said we'd better head out to the ranch. On the way out of town, he stopped at the general store. You'll want clothes for ranch work, he said. The owner greeted him by name, so I figured Tom was a regular. I grabbed jeans, a coat, heavy socks, and a pair of riding boots. It was enough to start. About 20 miles later, we passed under an arch that read Circle T Ranch. Another mile of dirt got us to a tidy two-story house on a little rise, with a barn and outbuildings tucked behind. Their pickup bed was stacked with groceries, and I grabbed bags along with them. 2 trips, and we had the kitchen counters covered. Tom waved me around back and pointed out a small cabin for me. "Henry's in the other one," he said. "He's out on rounds. You'll meet him tonight." The cabin was one big room with a bed along the wall, a little table and 2 chairs, a potbelly stove in the corner, and a bathroom with a stone shower. Simple, clean, and exactly what I needed, not least because Ashley would never think to look for me there. When I came back out, Tom idled in his pickup. "Hop in. I'll show you the place." The ranch ran just shy of 6,000 acres, mostly grazing, with a couple hundred set aside for winter feed. The back end climbed into hills and timber, and a cold stream cut through, best reached by horseback. He used to keep 3 hands year-round. Now it was just Henry, who'd worked there nearly 30 years. During roundups, they brought in extras. Back at the cabin door, he nodded at my laptop bag. "I've got satellite and a router at the house. Wi-Fi reaches your place if you need it. Supper's in the main house at 6. In 30 minutes, I was moved in and booting up. Sure enough, I had a signal. One email waited, from Mike, saying Ashley had reported me missing and the local cops were asking questions. That made me stop and think. Mike was the only one who knew I'd left, and even he didn't know where. I'd mailed a resignation to my boss, but I hadn't told them to their face. A little before 6, I walked to the big house and knocked. "Come on in," Tom called. Mary was plating food while Tom talked to a big man about my age plus 20. Easy. This had to be Henry. "Henry, this is Jack," Tom said, grinning. "Jack's the new hand. We'll find out tomorrow if he's got any sense." Henry's smile was warm. He was tall, 6'3" at least, strong as a post, and built like someone who'd worked every day of his life. "Glad to have another set of hands," he said, shaking mine. We sat down to pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a stack of biscuits that tasted like they'd been perfected over decades. "We don't stand on ceremony here, Jack," Mary said, "but you won't go hungry." "Looks perfect," I told her. Over dinner, Tom told me his grandfather started the ranch, passed it to his dad, and then to him and Mary. He winked at her and said, "When we were young, I had to fight off every fella in 3 counties to win her." The look they shared told me that wasn't an exaggeration. Mary laughed. "He was the only one I wanted. I just needed to make sure he wanted me enough." Tom's grin softened. "My wife made the 3 happiest days of my life. When she said she'd marry me, when she did, and when she gave birth to our daughter, Kelly." I must have looked around, because Mary added, "Kelly's finishing her doctorate in veterinary medicine at South Dakota State. She only makes it home for holidays. She should be back in a couple of months." Tom said having a vet in the family would save him some money. After supper, I tried to help, but Mary shooed me away. "Breakfast is at 5:30, Tom said. "We start work at 6. As Henry and I left, I noticed a fresh copy of the New York Times on the counter. Tom must have picked it up in town. I asked if I could borrow the front page for a minute, and he didn't mind. Back at my cabin, I had him take a close photo of me holding the paper, date and all, with my digital camera. He didn't ask why, and I didn't volunteer. I emailed the photo and a note to the police back home. "I'm alive. I left of my own free will. Please close your file." I sent the same to Mike with instructions to forward it from a coffee shop Wi-Fi using my work email before IT shut it down. I figured that would keep me off any national lists as a missing person. Seemed like the cops wouldn't break their backs searching for a husband who didn't want to be found. I slept like a stone. At 5 the next morning, I was up, showered, dressed, and walking with Henry to breakfast. Tom told him to take me up in the hills for fence posts that needed replacing. At the barn, Henry pointed out a calm brown mare I could saddle. My uncle's ranch time paid off. Henry watched me cinch the saddle and gave an approving grunt. We loaded 2 mules with posts and tools. Tom stepped in with a Winchester 94 in a scabbard, mostly for putting down a sick cow if we had to. We rode along the creek into the trees, leading the mules. On the way, Henry and I swapped histories. I told him why I'd landed in Montana, and he kept it to himself. He told me he married young and came home one day to find his wife with another man. He beat the guy bloody and did 5 years for it. When he got out, Tom was the only one who'd give him a chance. That's how he ended up spending 3 decades on the ranch. He said Tom and Mary were the salt of the earth. At the boundary fence, he showed me what needed doing. Only the posts that were rotted or getting there, maybe every third one. He stayed while I set the first couple to make sure I had the hang of it. Work till about 4, he said. Gives you time to get back, care for the stock, and make supper. He told me to follow the creek down if I wasn't sure of my bearings, then headed off. I worked down the line, pulling old posts, setting new ones, and restringing wire. At noon I ate pork chop sandwiches Mary had packed. At 4 my watch beeped. I had 2 posts left on the mules. I led them back along the fence until I could drop to the stream and follow it out. Before the trees ended, I found a pool where the water fell in a small sheet from the rocks. It was one of those calm places you feel in your bones. Back at the barn, I unsaddled the mare, fed her and the mules, and was just finishing up when Henry came in with his horse. We washed quick and made it to stakes at 6. I barely spoke. After a day like that, bed grabbed me fast. I slept hard and woke up sore from neck to ankles. Even with regular workouts, a gym can't teach you what a full day of fence will. At breakfast, Tom and Henry chuckled at the way I sat down. Even Mary couldn't hide a grin. I still cleaned my plate. Tom asked if I was ready for another day of fencing. Yes, sir, I said, trying to sound more cheerful than I felt. He laughed and told me to ride rounds with Henry instead. We cleaned stalls, turned the stock out, then took the pickup to check the herd. Henry seemed to know the land like it was his own skin. At the far edge, he stopped and studied a hillside. He handed me binoculars. Tell me what you see. After a minute, I found 2 calves alone and 2 cows near the trees, likely their mamas. The calves had wandered and got separated. We'll have to bring him down, he said. We radioed Tom, who had 2 horses saddled and in a trailer by the time we got back. Half an hour up the slope, we eased the calves down until they spotted their mothers. They bawled, ran, and latched on like it had been a week. The big cow stood patient and let them nurse. It was a decent reminder that nature runs on its own schedule. That night we ate fried chicken, corn on the cob, and mashed potatoes. Mary told me she'd come to the States from Ireland when she was 5 because her dad had always dreamed of the American West. The history lingered in her voice. She and Tom made sense together. The next day, I went back to posts. Henry helped me load the mules, but I worked alone and followed the creek straight to the line. It went easier now that I'd learned a few tricks. By 4 the last post was set, and I even had time to start stall work before supper. Day 4 we fixed buildings. Day 5 I was back on fence. Weeks rolled by. I picked up riding the ranch myself, and my body toughened up. We rotated days off, Saturdays for Henry, Sundays for Tom, Mondays for me. Mondays I did laundry and ran into town if I needed supplies. I liked these people. Henry was easygoing and got deep when he wanted to. Tom was square-dealing and steady. Mary was sweet but had a streak of fire. They were a good team. One Friday at breakfast, Mary beamed and said their daughter Kelly would be home in a week. That day was my turn to ride the wooded section and push out any strays. A little after 4, I followed the creek to the pool and hopped off to splash my face and neck with my bandana. A splash downstream made me look right. A horse and rider came through the trees. For a second I thought it was Mary, but the woman was younger, a mirror of her, almost. Same blue eyes, same red hair. She pulled up, sized me, and asked flatly, "Who are you, and what are you doing on this property?" "Name's Jack," I said. "I work here." She frowned. "I don't buy it. My dad told me he couldn't afford another hand." Her tone rubbed me wrong, so I shot back. "Yeah, I heard that rumor too. Must be why I'm laughing all the way to the bank every payday." She narrowed her eyes, spun her horse, and shot off. I chuckled, pulled my shirt on, and headed for the barn. Turned out Kelly had come home early, miscommunication all around. She'd shown up a couple of hours after I rode out, surprised her parents, then saddled up to visit the waterfall she loved as a kid. After 2 months on the ranch, I was old news, and they'd simply forgotten to mention me. When I led my horse into the barn, she was already inside, voice raised, asking Tom who I was. "That must have been Jack," he said. "He works here." Then she told him I claimed he paid me enough to laugh on the way to the bank. By then I had walked in. Tom caught my eye and grinned. "That true, Jack? If you're overpaid, I'll fix it." I took off my hat, scratched the back of my head, and said, "I'd hate to take advantage, Tom. How much of a cut were you thinking?" Tom and I cracked up. Kelly didn't find it funny. "Sweetheart," Tom said, "so you can calm down. Jack's staying in the cabin next to Henry's." And what else? She asked, still prickly. That and he eats your mama's cooking, Tom said. So he's not paid? Why would he work for nothing? He's got his reasons, and it ain't my place to tell them, Tom said. I added, working for a plate of your mama's biscuits is worth more than you think, and I wouldn't say it's nothing where she can hear it. Kelly shot me one more dagger of a look and stormed out. Tom shook his head. She's her mother all over again at that age. Took me a while to corral Mary. That night, Kelly sat next to Henry across from me and shot me a sharp look when I walked in. I waited until plates were full. Your mom tells me you finished your doctorate in veterinary medicine, I said. Yeah, she answered without looking up. Henry says there's just one other vet in the area, and he's 30 miles off. You're going to be a blessing to a lot of folks. She glanced up, and her eyes softened. That'd be Dr. Miller. He's swamped most days, needed in 2 places at once. Mary beamed. Our Kelly will do this county a world of good. I let them catch up. It was her homecoming. After I ate, I excused myself and headed for my cabin. An email from Mike was waiting. He'd asked a friend on the force if I was still listed as missing. The cop said the case went away after the email with my photo. As for Ashley, Tyler dumped her the minute he learned I'd vanished with the money. With no cash, she couldn't pay the rent. She moved to a city apartment and picked up work as a waitress. She didn't have money for a lawyer, either. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd married me for money, and her boyfriend only wanted her because I had it. The next morning, I loaded posts into the ranch pickup and headed out. No mules needed for the lower pastures. When I broke for lunch, I realized I'd left my sack on the kitchen counter. I figured missing a meal wouldn't kill me. About 30 minutes later, I'd just finished tying off wire when a ranch truck rolled up. Kelly hopped out with one of Mary's brown lunch bags. Mom said you forgot this, she said, pushing it into my hands. Thank you, Kelly. That's kind of you, I said. I offered her one of the sandwiches. She shook her head and just stood near me, staring while I ate on the tailgate. Why are you here? She finally asked. I decided to poke the bear. You can't tell anyone, I said. I robbed a bank, stashed the money, and I'm laying low till the heat dies down. Her eyes widened, then she scowled. You're a real comedian. She turned to go. When she was halfway to the truck, I called her name. She stopped and faced me. I married a woman who never loved me, I said. She wanted the stuff I could buy, not me. I came here to reset my life. She studied my face, gave a small nod, and left without a word. As she drove away, I remembered Tom saying he'd tamed Mary back in the day. I doubted any man ever truly tamed Kelly. If anything, love had a way of changing the rules. That evening was a rinse-repeat at supper. Her old friends started sniffing around, too. A tall, dark-haired guy came by one night. Kelly practically flew into his arms. Then a fair-haired one showed up, and she hugged him just as warm. I excused myself and wished them luck. Truth? I envied them. If Kelly turned out anything like Mary, whoever won her would be a lucky man. The next day, I rode the ranch in the pickup, and something fell off. We had cattle everywhere, but the numbers didn't smell right. It was early enough that I swung back for Henry, and we made a quick push across the place. He agreed. We seemed short by a few bunches. We decided to ride the hills the next day and told Tom over supper. A hard rain fell overnight, which would smear tracks, but we tried anyway. Tom hauled us to one end of the property with the horse trailer. I rode a third of the way up into the timber. Henry climbed higher. We worked across all day and came out the far side with only 5 stray bunches found. Tom met us, and we headed home. Only thing to do was keep sharper watch. Kelly's suitors kept cycling through. Word had gotten out she was home, and the local guys were lining up like they were at the county fair. She hadn't said 2 words to me since the lunch run. On the 5th day after we first suspected cattle were missing, I told Tom I wanted to ride the boundary fence through the hills. We'd already checked the pasture fences, and there was no sign anything pushed through there. Henry dropped me on the west line where Tom's place met the Anderson Ranch. Halfway to the southwest corner, I found 3 fresh sets of horse tracks crossing from Anderson's side to Tom's. The strange thing was the wire still looked tight. I dismounted and checked the staples. Someone had worked 5 posts, so the staples were barely holding. Pop them out, drop the wire, ride through, and put it all right again, clean as you please. I followed the tracks toward the creek. 30 yards back from the falls, I spotted 3 horses tied to a tree. I tied my mare, slid the Winchester out, and moved forward. Boot prints led downstream. I eased to the lip of the falls, glanced over, and felt my breath hitch. Kelly was in the pool below, naked as the day she was born, swimming easy in the clear water. Movement in the trees snapped me back. One man crouched to her right, and two more crept from the left. I fired into the dirt by the first one's boots. He froze. I stitched another shot into the ground near the pair on the left. Kelly screamed, the sound bouncing off the rocks. I stood up where everyone could see me. Flat on your bellies. I shouted. I won't miss next time. Kelly, don't move. She hadn't seen them. She'd only seen me with a rifle and tried to cover herself. One of the men twitched like he might run. I blew bark off the tree 6 inches from his shoulder. He hit the ground. Hands behind your heads. I yelled. They did as they were told. I told Kelly, in as steady a voice as I could, to get out, get dressed, and ride straight home. She trembled so hard I could see it from the ridge, but she did it. Even with her back turned, the sight of her pale skin climbing out of the water branded itself in my skull. She'd barely buttoned her shirt before she swung into the saddle and disappeared through the trees. Once she was gone, I made each of the 3 stand one at a time and lie down in front of me, spread out where I could see their hands. Then I took a breath and decided to bluff. What am I going to do with you? I asked, voice flat. I could shoot you in the legs and let you bleed out. Wouldn't take long. They started begging. I kept my face cold. Even if I spare you, Kelly's father is going to want justice, and this county still remembers what to do with men who try to corner a woman. Unless you've got a better confession for the sheriff, like cattle rustling. You might see daylight again that way. The smallest one cracked. We took him, he blurted. Anderson said if he could break Bennett, the land would fall in his lap. One of the others hissed for him to shut up. I ain't dying for no damn cows, he snapped. Time crawled for 45 minutes before Tom and Henry came pounding up through the brush. I flagged them, and they rode to me fast. What in hell's going on? Tom asked. Looks like Anderson's hands took a walk on your side of the fence, I said. I tracked them from a rigged section of wire. Kelly was swimming, and these 3 were about to sneak up on her. I nudged the little man with the rifle barrel. This one has a confession you'll want to hear. He wilted and repeated it word for word. Tom pushed his hat back and looked at Henry. When my granddad ran this place, they hung horse thieves and cattle rustlers, he said. Justice was simpler then. Shame we have to be civilized. We marched the 3 down with rifles behind them. Henry tied their horses together and led them. Back at the ranch, we put each man in his own stall so they couldn't get their story straight. Tom called the sheriff. Sheriff Barnes made the mile-long drive in record time. We brought out the small one first. He tried to stonewall, but when the sheriff said it sounded like a simple trespass he'd be happy to leave to Tom to handle, the man sang. Deputies rolled to Anderson's spread and, just where the little guy said, found almost 100 head with Tom's Circle T brand. By dark, Anderson and his crew were sitting in the county jail. We ate late that night. Kelly stared at her plate. Tom finally asked what she'd been doing up there. I was swimming, she said, shooting me a look. Didn't think I needed to worry about peeping Toms. I kept my voice even. Kelly, I wasn't spying on you. I followed tracks from a tampered fence. And if I hadn't been there, I don't think those 3 were planning a picnic. Mary shivered. Thank God you showed up when you did, Jack. After we ate, I headed for my cabin. Kelly met me outside, cheeks hot with anger. Did you enjoy the view? She snapped. If I said no, that'd be a lie, I said plainly. It was breathtaking. She huffed, spun, and stomped off. Somehow, I kept getting under her skin without trying. The next day, Tom had to go to town to file charges officially. The prosecutor wanted photos and paperwork before any cattle moved back. So Henry and I painted out buildings and kept busy. We ate lunch in the kitchen. Kelly skipped it, which was fine by me. Tom got home mid-afternoon and told us over dinner that Anderson and his hands would make bail eventually. He didn't expect more trouble, but he warned us to stay alert. Then he grinned at Kelly. If you're planning another skinny dip, maybe take Jack as security. Her face went red, and she fled the room. We all laughed, even Mary. 3 days later, we got the green light to bring the cattle home. Tom hauled 3 horses to Anderson's Silver Creek Ranch, deputies in tow, and we drove the herd back. I rode ahead and loosened a section of fence we could lift, then tightened it after the last cow crossed. Felt good to count those brands back where they belonged. Kelly applied for her vet license and had to wait about 45 days. Until then, she treated only her dad's stock. I saw her around the yard and at meals. When our eyes met, I'd grin and waggle my eyebrows just to watch her blush. 2 weeks after the waterfall, we ran into each other in the barn. "You been enjoying any swims lately?" I asked. She charged up to me, inches away. "Why are you such an a-hole?" I shrugged. "Why are you such a b?" She went to slap me. I caught her wrist. She swung the other. I caught that too and pulled her hands gently behind her, which put her right up against me. I leaned in like I might kiss her. She didn't move or look away. "If you were mine," I murmured, "I'd put you over my knee and tan your hide." "You wouldn't dare," she breathed. I let go. She stumbled to the straw. "It's not that I wouldn't," I said. "It's that I just let go of one woman who didn't care about me, and I'm not wasting time on another." This time I was the one who stormed out. I didn't see her again until supper. She didn't speak to me, and I couldn't read the look she gave me. Not that I've ever been good at reading women. My marriage to Ashley proved that. Next morning, Tom's day off, I was mucking stalls when he walked in. I wondered if Kelly had told him and he'd come to run me off. He had a sparkle in his eye. "Heard you, and Kelly had a little dust up," he said. Something like that. "Probably my fault," he said. "Maybe not. Truth is, she doesn't know what bucket to put you in. First she figured you were here for something. Then you saved her hide and my ranch's backside. Now you're not chasing her like the other boys. She's used to having fellas wrapped around her finger. I don't think she respected most of them. Just don't let her chase you off." "You won't lose me over that," I said. "I'll ease off the teasing. We'll be neighborly." He nodded and left. I thought on his words the rest of the day. If Kelly wanted to understand me, a civil talk would do more than slinging names. Monday was my day off. Even so, I was up at 5, ate with the family, and tossed everything into the big commercial washer Tom kept by the kitchen. Mary and I chatted while it ran. Kelly came in earlier than usual, which surprised me. Mary asked what I had planned. "Run into town," I said, "and do a little shopping. Need anything?" She handed me a short list. Before I could pocket it, Kelly said, "Could I ride in with you? I need a few things at the general store, and it seems dumb for both of us to burn gas." I hadn't expected that. "Sure," I said. "I'll leave in about an hour and a half when my laundry's put away." "I'll be ready," she said, fixing herself a small breakfast while Mary and I kept visiting. When I stepped out of my cabin later, she came through the back door in a turquoise sundress that set off her hair and eyes. The message was not subtle. I opened the passenger door, and she slid in. We drove quiet for a while, taking in the land. Then she said, still looking out the window, "I thought you were going to kiss me yesterday." "I don't force anything on a woman who doesn't want it," I said. She snapped her head around like she was checking to see if I meant it. We rolled into town, grabbed jeans and shirts for me, and worked Mary's list. By lunchtime I was starving, so I asked if she wanted a bite. She nodded, and we took a table at the same diner where I'd met her folks. We'd barely sat when 3 men walked in. I recognized 2 as recent callers. They slid into our space, 2 on either side of Kelly, the third standing behind me. They ignored me and started in with her like I wasn't there. I stood, offered the third man my chair, and moved to the next table. When the waitress came, I waved her over and had her set my plate where I'd moved. I ate without inserting myself into their conversation. When I finished, I dropped cash for both plates and stood. Kelly's food was still untouched. "I'm going to run to the hardware store," I said evenly. "I'll swing back if you need a ride." She pushed her plate away, stood up, and said to her old friends, "Great seeing you, but we've got to go." They tried to object, one offering to drive her home. She declined and followed me out. She stewed the whole way to the hardware store and back to the ranch. Half a mile down the driveway, she finally let it fly. "Why did you do that?" "Do what?" I said. "Move to another table." "Oh, I figured you'd enjoy time with your friends. Didn't want to be in the middle of a contest." "You really are an a-hole," she said. I kept quiet. No sense earning a slap while I was steering. At the house, she grabbed armloads of bags. I took the rest inside. She dumped everything on the table without a word and disappeared down the hall. Mary gave me a look. "I guess I'm an a-hole," I said. Mary laughed softly and patted my arm. "I've never seen anyone get under Kelly's skin like you do." "Maybe I've got a gift," I said. "I'm not sure that's the word," she smiled. I put my clothes away, saddled a horse, and rode to the top of the waterfall. Not wanting any peeping accusations, I tossed a stone into the pool to announce myself. Kelly looked up, spotted me, and, rather than ride away, brought her horse up the trail to me. She tied off next to mine and walked close. "You're an a-hole," she said, stopping inches away. "And you're still AB," I said. Before she could wind up, I pulled her in and kissed her. I let her go fast, started to step away, and she grabbed my arm and hauled me back. What followed burned hot and sure, and then the world got very quiet. We dressed without much talk, rode down, cared for the horses, and split for our doors. At supper, Kelly took the seat beside me instead of her usual spot by Henry. Tom and Mary traded looks. Kelly was all smiles, and nobody pressed her. After dinner, she helped Mary with dishes. Henry and I headed to our cabins. I'd barely settled into bed when there was a soft knock. I opened the door in boxers, and she slid inside. We kissed until words didn't matter. 5 a.m. came fast. I kissed the top of her head and slipped out to dress. Over breakfast, I caught Tom and Mary sneaking glances. I loaded the pickup for more posts and spent most of the day thinking about how 3 months can feel like years. I thought about Tom, Mary, and Henry, about the work, and about Kelly. At lunch, I realized I'd forgotten my bag again. As I cursed myself, I heard a pickup flying over the pasture. Kelly hopped down with a lunch sack and ran straight into my arms. The sandwiches didn't get top billing. I didn't set many posts that afternoon, either. We did talk between kisses. I told her about my past straight, how Ashley cheated, how I left, what I was trying to protect. "I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to," I said. She went home, and I finished out the day. That night, she sat beside me again. Mid-meal, a tall, dark-haired suitor knocked. Tom let him in. He asked Kelly if she wanted to go for a drive, which around here is their word for a date. "I appreciate it," she said, "but I don't think my boyfriend would like that." Then she kissed my cheek. Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome flushed and backed out. That settled our status in a hurry. Tom and Mary smiled. Henry grinned big enough to show teeth. After that, the parade of local fellas stopped. Kelly had plans to start her veterinary practice, but the bank balked at an unsecured loan. The only way forward was putting the ranch up as collateral, and she didn't want to ask Tom to risk it. I told her to give me a couple days. I set up an account through my offshore bank with a small loan company shell. Kelly filled out an application on my laptop, rigged to route to my email, and 2 days later she got an approval notice and a wire for the equipment. The interest was only 2%. When she asked why, I told her the lender was a nonprofit that helped folks who served their communities. Truth was, I could have just given her the money outright, but she was proud and had earned her degree the hard way. She wanted to stand on her own feet. By the time her license cleared, she had a new van kitted out like a rolling clinic. Once word spread, calls poured in from ranchers up and down the county. Many nights she stayed with me. Tom and Mary knew and didn't make a fuss. She was 27 and on her own path. 3 months later, Anderson and his crew stood trial. The small hand who'd confessed cooperated and walked with probation. 5 others got 5 years each. Anderson, who orchestrated it, drew the max, 10 years and a $50,000 fine. When Anderson went off to prison, I did some digging. He was single, no local family, and with his men locked up, nobody was left to run Silver Creek Ranch. Buildings would rot, cattle would suffer, and winter would finish what pride started. I saw an opportunity, but knew I had to settle one piece of business first, the divorce. I called Mike and asked him to talk to Ashley. Tell her I wanted a clean break, $50,000 for a signed divorce, fast and final. If she refused, she'd never hear from me again, and she'd get nothing. She played innocent at first, demanding to know why I left. Mike told her I knew about Tyler and her plan to gut me in court. Broke and stuck, she took the deal. I had to fly back to Texas to get the paperwork done. Kelly wasn't thrilled, but I explained I needed to close the book. She insisted on driving me to the airport and keeping my SUV, so I'd have to come back. I flew out Sunday. Mike picked me up, put me up, and I called Kelly every night. By Friday, we had signatures. Ashley got a check for $10,000 that day. The remaining $40,000 would land 60 days after the divorce finalized. I never had to see her face. Then I remembered I still had a storage unit with my parents' keepsakes, photo albums, yearbooks, heirlooms. I rented a moving van and loaded it to the roof. Kelly was surprised when I said I'd drive back instead of fly, but when I told her why, she lit up. 3 long days later, I turned into Circle T, and they all met me like I'd been gone a year. That night, Kelly welcomed me home like she meant it. With the divorce set in motion, I went to work on the rest of my plan. I visited Anderson in prison more than once. At first he puffed up and said no. I kept laying it out. He'd be inside for at least 7 years, no crew, no upkeep, harsh winters. When he got out, nobody would trust him. He could sell now, pocket something, and start over somewhere else. Eventually, he saw it. I moved money back stateside. Ashley wouldn't risk losing her $40,000 by making trouble. I negotiated a price, $5 million, under market, and put $500,000 down, financing the rest. Paperwork took a month. Only Kelly and Tom knew what I was up to. I told everyone else I was straightening out personal finances. I formed a company and deeded Silver Creek to it. Summer bled into fall. I hired a crew to bring in the hay and 4 hands to live on-site and keep the ranch running. The best of them served as acting foremen. I told them I'd be an absentee owner for a while, but reachable by phone, and I'd show up often. I also greenlit a full remodel of the main house, a good-bone 2-story with 5 bedrooms that needed bringing into this century. Kelly chafed at the secrecy, but our relationship only got stronger. I loved her more every day, and I could tell it was mutual. Her practice took off. She was on the road a lot, but happy. I almost spilled the beans more than once. One afternoon she cornered me. "What's going on, Jack? Are you seeing somebody?" "God, no," I said. "There's no one else. I'm handling a few things I'll explain soon. Please trust me." She searched my face, nodded slowly, and jabbed a finger at my chest. "Soon," she said, "or I'll kick your butt." When spring and calving season came, the remodel was finished. Time for the reveal. I asked Kelly to take a drive. "I've been thinking it's about time I leave Circle T," I said as we rolled down the county road. Her eyes filled fast. "But you promised you wouldn't leave," she said. We were just then passing the Silver Creek gate. I turned in. "I wasn't planning on going far," I said. She blinked around, confused, and asked why we were on Anderson's land. I didn't answer until we parked at the main house. I let her inside. She hissed that we'd get in trouble. I told her to relax. Anderson didn't own it anymore, and asked her to walk the place with me. We went upstairs and back down. The living room was big and bright, the den paneled and warm. 2 rooms were set for offices, and the kitchen made her eyes sparkle. Only one room had furniture, the office I intended to use. The rest waited for her choices. "What do you think?" I asked. "Could you live in a place like this?" "What is going on?" she asked, halfway between laughing and crying. I dropped to one knee and reached into my jacket. "Anderson doesn't own this ranch anymore," I said. "I do. Question is, will you live here as my wife?" Her hands flew to her mouth. "You own this?" she squeaked. I nodded. She screamed yes, so loud the walls could have echoed it back. I pulled out the ring. For a heartbeat, she made a face like I'd messed up. Then she tackled me, covered my face with kisses, and thrust out her left hand. The ring fit like it was meant to be. She ran from room to room like a kid on Christmas morning, then barreled back into my arms. "I love this house," she said. I walked her to the 2 office doors. "One for Dr. Kelly Bennett, DVM," I said, "and one for me." She kissed me long and hard. Then I unrolled a draft of the new gate sign. JK Ranch, it read in bold script. "Stands for Jack and Kelly," I said. She burst into tears again, the happy kind. We christened the office properly, and, over the next week, made sure every room in the house felt like ours. That evening we drove back for supper. Kelly held up her hand as we walked in and squealed, "We're getting married." Mary hugged her so tight I thought ribs might crack. Tom and Henry shook my hand hard enough to rattle my elbow. When we sat down, Kelly waited until everyone had a bite. "This means we'll be moving," she said, casual as could be. "What?" Tom, Mary, and Henry said together. I looked at Kelly, and she nodded for me to tell it. "Tom," I said, "you always said Anderson wanted to run Silver Creek and Circle T as one. I was thinking we could do exactly that, with better owners." Tom sprang up like he'd been bit. "Ain't no way in hell Silver Creek gets my ranch." I laughed. "It's not Silver Creek anymore. It's JK Ranch, and the owners are sitting at your table." Mary got it first. "JK, Jack and Kelly. Here's my offer," I told Tom. "We join the ranches and split profits 50-50. JK's more than twice the size of Circle T," he said, frowning. "It's not even. I need you," I said plainly. "You run operations. Your word is law. I'll handle money and big projects. Equal partners. Besides, Kelly's name is on JK, too. Keeps it all in the family." He looked at Mary. She nodded. He stuck out his hand, and I shook it. Damn it, Jack, he said. This'll take getting used to. But I accept. That means more hands, I said. And Henry becomes head foreman. Also means I get to pull out all those fence posts I worked so hard to set on that side. Everyone laughed at that. We celebrated loud and long. Kelly spent the night at my cabin and wore me down to the mattress springs. We were late to breakfast, and nobody complained. They were waiting to caravan over so Kelly could show off the house. Mary stared at the remodeled kitchen like it was a holy place. Over the next month, she and Kelly furnished every room. We moved in on our wedding night. We got married at JK Ranch. Tom and Mary were respected and liked, and people came from everywhere to celebrate. As Kelly's husband, Tom's son-in-law, and the new owner of JK, I was welcomed like I'd been born there. We didn't see much of the house for the first 2 days. Call it a proper honeymoon warm-up. Then I took my bride to Fiji for the real thing. Our first roundup paid well. We sent a lot of beef to market and turned a nice profit. A chunk went to the loan, but with Kelly's practice humming, we were comfortable. We built Henry a new house, and he started seeing a lady his age from town. There might be another wedding on the horizon. Another year slipped by, and my beautiful wife gave me the best news I've ever heard. She's pregnant. We're going to be parents. Before I go, I'll answer the folks who'll say I should have learned my lesson and made Kelly sign a prenup. If you think that, you don't know Kelly. She isn't Ashley. She works like a mule when she needs to and keeps our home like Mary taught her. She shares her heart with me, and only me. Every morning I look into those blue Irish eyes and see the same thing. Love, plain and simple. And that's all I ever wanted.